When experts dig a Russian dance floor, the untangled massive Napoleonic mystery, archaeologists are carefully moving dirt from an unlikely place. They are digging below the surface of an outdoor like the dance floor in the city of Smolensk, which is about 250 miles west of Russia's capital, Moscow. They are about to find will solve a 200-year-old mystery about Napoleon Bonaparte's failed invasion of Russia. When experts dig up a Russian dance floor, they solved a huge Napoleonic mystery. Let's find out in this video. In the summer of 2019, a group of French and Russian archaeologists was digging a park in Smolensk. What they found would help solve a long-standing mystery about General Charles-Étienne Godin, one of Napoleon's favorite senior military leaders and one of the most successful in battle. Godin was one of the many generals who served Napoleon in seemingly endless campaigns across Europe. But he was an exceptional leader and one who was particularly ruthless. The towering Victory Arch at the end of the avenue des Champs-Élysées says, "We'll be back to those archaeologists and small things in their starting discovery soon." But first, let's get to know the man at the center of our story, Charles Eyre. His fancy name tells us right away that he was born into France's aristocracy. He was born in 1768, when King Louis XV was still in power. 60 boys from wealthy families and 60 scholarship students from poor aristocracy made up the school roll of 120. In such a small academy, Napoleon came from a background that was not well known. But he was very talented. Napoleon and Godin probably knew each other because there were only about 18 months between them in age, with Godin being older in the years to come. The relationship between the future general and the future emperor would be central of Godin and his ultimate fate. As we'll see, Godin finished his school in 1782 and joined the King's Guard before becoming a second lieutenant in an infantry regiment. Even when French Revolution happened in 1789, Godin stayed in the army. The Battle of Austerlitz was between Napoleon's forces and those Prussia's king, Frederick William III. It was fought in Saxony, which is now in Germany. About 1,22,000 Frenchmen fought against about 1,40,000 Prussians and Saxons. Since the Russians just allied with the Prussians, Napoleon wanted to fight the Prussians before they could join the Russians. Yes, Godin's men kept the fighting and stopped an enemy counterattack. It was a complete victory, but it came at a high cost. About 40 soldiers in Godin's division were killed, and the general himself was badly hurt, but he made a full recovery. This allowed him to lead his winning troops into Berlin. A few weeks after the Battle of Austerlitz, so good. He continued to have military success over the years and was given many honors by the grateful emperor. Also, he has heard again at the Battle of Wagram in 1809, when Napoleon's forces beat an Austrian army in a very bloody battle. With 3 lakh men, he got 4 gunshot wounds there. In his History of Napoleon's 1812 trip to Russia, which was published in 1825, French historian Philippe Paul Sager wrote about how people reacted. He wrote that when the emperor heard about this misfortune, he stopped all decisions and action. Everyone was shocked, and the victory at Valiottino didn't seem like much of a win anymore. The next day, Napoleon went to see Godin in the hospital. He was said to have asked doctors to cut off Godin's most badly hurt leg to save his life. He stayed to watch the operation, but the gangrene took over Godin's wound. Napoleon wrote a glowing memorial of Godin in his 14th bulletin. According to the Foundation of Napoleon website, the emperor wrote that the General Godin was one of the army's most distinguished officers and that he was admired for his moral qualities as well as his bravery and intrepidity. Napoleon also sent Godin's wife a letter of condolence in which he said, "I share your sorrow. The loss is great for you, and it is also great for me." It seems that Napoleon Molonowski said, "I read that Napoleon cried when he died and that he buried him in a Smolensk park because he didn't have the time to take the body with him. He planned to bring him back home later, but that never happened. because they had to retreat. I put together teams of experts and started a project in Russia in May 2019. At first, Malinowski's research team, which was backed by the Russian government, tried to figure out where the grave was probably located by looking at Marshal Davier's diary, DAV, outward arranged for Gardner's burial, and his diary included a description of Gardner's grave. However, the evidence provided by Davier's account did not lead researchers to the general's final resting place. Next, the researchers looked at the other documents about the general's burial. One of these was an eyewitness account of general's burial. This led them to the outdoor dance floor we talked about earlier. And sure enough, digging below the surface of his Smolensk Pavel, Gardner was 44 when he died, and his skeleton was missing a leg. This was a good sign, but it was enough to prove that the team had found Gardner's grave. Thousands of people died during the French invasion of Russia, and many of them probably lost limbs. Malinowski knew he needed more proof to be sure that Gardner's body had been found. He came up with a daring plan and put some teeth and a piece of a skeleton's femur in a suitcase and took to fly to Marseille, France. It was a scary trip, and Malinowski told CNN that it's not often that someone travels with human remains in their suitcase. When Malinowski got back to France, he gave the bones to a DNA expert in Marseille for testing to prove that the bones belonged to Gardner. They were compared to the remains of some of the general's relatives. Getting samples from Gardner family wasn't as hard as finding the generals himself, because they have a crypt in French town of O, as he told the radio network France. Blue November 2019, and the DNA fits 100. There's no longer any doubt. So it looks like Malinowski did exactly what he set out to do. His team found General's Gardner remains, which had been lost Smolensk for more than 200 years. A happy Malinowski said, "This is the best day of my life. Napoleon was one of the people to see him alive, which is important, and he was the first general from the Napoleonic era that has been found." Alberic Dorinians, a descendant of General Gardner, was also happy about the discovery. He told the Daily Graph, "This is the man who stood up to Persians at the Battle of Austerlitz. He deserves a national tribute." Dorinians added that he would like his famous ancestor to be reburied Alice Invalides in Paris, which would make sense since that's where Napoleon is buried. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video with more amazing updates.